But most of our lives are far from straight lines from birth to death. And perhaps my life has been somewhat more irregular in its journey than many others. But a recurring theme seems to have been striving to know where I belong and feeling at home in various places and life spaces. I chose this theme upon which to hang the various adventures of my life, I think, because of a workshop many, many years ago with Barbara Hallroth on Haunting House. As I recall, we were asked to visualize the first time and place that we remember feeling at home. That was a very powerful experience for me. The memory came so clearly of a bright winter day following a snowstorm. I must have been 2.5. Georgie, my then foster father, while shoveling out the garage, took a wide shovelful of snow from one of the newly formed banks and made me a place to sit with the words, "Here is a seat for the princess." Well, I had come to live with Georgie in February of 1932, shortly after the time that my mother, under stress, left me and my siblings in the house she had brought to her marriage. My older siblings were taken to the Home for Little Wanderers in Boston and placed in a foster home, and I was given to Georgie and Dottie Mayer, childless friends and neighbors of my parents. My mother and the man whose name I carried had had 5 children, one of whom had died of whooping cough before I was born. I was to find out years later, at age 12 or 13, in the middle of the night, 100 miles from home, visiting this man that I continued to call Daddy, that he was not, in fact, my father. I was the outcome of an affair that my mother had had with a man she subsequently married, and with whom she had 2 more children. This man was always Uncle Jim to me on my regular visits to the farm as a child. She continued to be Mother until her death in 1977. The day I was working on this, I stopped at this point and went looking for a poem I had written after Mother's death. It was about wishing I had been a niece and not a daughter, and expressed the ambivalence I had never quite resolved, suggesting the love-hate feelings for her throughout the years of my awareness of our abandonment. There had been a seductive nature to our relationship as I grew up in the same town, where she and my father were raising my 2 new brothers and my half-sister. I visited them regularly, even after finally being adopted when I was 12. They lived on the Leland family farm in a generous house filled with antiques, hot water, and 2 bathrooms, as well as my siblings. Following these visits, I returned home to Dottie and George and the house we shared a few miles away. It was very small, intending eventually to be the garage for a future house nearby. We had only cold running water and a chemical toilet. It did have a Dutch door with leaded windows and a Dutch roof. Inside were curtains for room dividers and a wood stove and for heat and a kerosene stove for cooking and an icebox. It still sits on Maple Street in Sherborn, moved back some years later when, following Dottie's long illness and death, Georgie remarried and built the future home. People today look at that tiny house from a distance and say, "How charming." But it was hard for me at 9 and 12 and 16 to see the charm. Only in maturity did I appreciate the contents of that home fully. It was always filled with good music, good books, and good food. And in addition, it was filled with unconditional love for me.
And what year was Curve Street?
1930.
Okay, so we're starting tomorrow morning.
Historic.
Oh my God,
Right.
we're going to learn
So
so
there's
much
that.
tomorrow.
Then Maple Street?
Wait, when were you
I was
Claire?
only 2.
Well, you gotta get this straight. We got a movie to make tomorrow.
Yeah, you have
It started
Wait, you don't have me in the picture.
Hi! Over the river and through the
Mom
woods.
is now, we're driving. Mom doesn't have her seatbelt on yet.
Well, no, I
We're heading to get Richard and we hope Wendy.
Wait,
'Cause
are
this
you
is a
sure
New
you like
England.
something on that windshield, honey? I mean, your side windows are
We're fine.
all... Yeah, right,
Look at the
crash.
windshield.
And that's the end of the movie.
Mom, we're gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts drive-through.
And your mother isn't strapped in yet.
Oh, over here.
Mom, that's your only job right now. Let us worry about everything else. Just strap in.
Is there a drive? There is a drive-through.
Oh my God.
What are you getting?
And some donuts. I'll get coffee.
Medium hot cream only.
Yep, and then I need one medium tea.
Anything else?
Make it 2 chocolate glazed donuts.
How are you feeling about this excursion, Cherry?
Oh, this is great. This is so exciting.
$8.99. Good deal.
Oh, that important penny. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, these are my crazy daughters.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Side windows down, you could see.
Mother, that's not the trouble.
Well, it is.
Normally drive-throughs go around
No,
a
but
building.
it does, but it goes around the other way.
Well, I didn't know that, did I? I've
No, you
never
didn't.
done Dunkin' Donuts drive-through in Sherborn before. Oh, let's hear. This is Polly's Corner.
Oh yeah, this is with our cousin Jim's dry cleaning business.
And your mother's trash and treasures.
Yeah. No, you called it Polly's Corner.
Oh, okay.
Corner.
Something else with trash and treasures.
Yeah, Trash and Treasures you told me the other day was in New
In
Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Right.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hey.
Hi.
The first place. Oh.
You're-
Well, Framingham Union Hospital, but in Sherborn,
Yes.
Curve Street in
Curve.
Sherborn, which is off Western Avenue.
Okay, so we're heading to Curve Street on Western Avenue.
But the red house that we're going to see is the house that my mother grew up in. She was an only child, and her father built her a tennis court.
So this is
She could play tennis by herself.
This is the house. It wasn't. There's been some additions to it,
and it used to be red
and it used to be red
because
yes.
we always called it the red
Actually,
house.
I don't remember anything except that I know that that's where I came to after I was born at the Framingham Union Hospital in 1930 on July 16th.
Okay.
Sears Fuller and my grandmother, the battle axe.
She wasn't your grandmother.
No, she was not and did not want to be.
Right. She was.
Because I was a female.
picture of everything?
Yeah.
And she wanted no females near her son at all, at any time in her life.
And which children were living at this house when you arrived?
John, Dick, Clark, Joanne.
We can get us all.
Oh, look at that. We can't get us all.
Was over on the right side of Western Avenue, and it was quite a large house and a large barn. And that's when Georgie met Dottie.
You
So
can
that's
take it
where-
right in here.
So that's where they were living?
Yes,
When
that's
you
where they
came
were
to them?
living. Georgia worked on the farm, and there were horses and so forth. It was
And Rex Trail lived across the street?
No, he bought the land across the street
I see.
when it was for sale a long time ago. And
Okay, so
I
George.
don't know who, the town owns it now, I think.
The Barber now.
The Barber Reservation,
Sure,
yeah.
So Georgie and Dottie lived on an
Georgie and Dottie, it was
building
Dottie's
on a farm.
mother, Mama Kitson, the one who did the Pilgrim Maid in Plymouth,
Right.
and a lot of other things. She was a student of Papa Kitson,
Right.
who did the Minuteman in Lexington,
Right.
and a lot of other things, as they both did. And it was Mama Kitson's farm for some reason. I don't remember Papa Kitson being part of any stories there. I think she bought that probably when he moved out to the
Tyringham.
Berkshires.
Oh. So Mama Kitson had a house in
Oh,
Sherborn here.
I'm sorry. We went from that house that Mama Kitson had on Western Avenue. Must have been when they got divorced. And then she bought the house that I remember in Framingham Center, where the Staples Center now is, at the intersection of Mass Pike and Route 9. There's a huge complex up there. And I remember I choked on something when I was sitting in a high chair.
God, that's fun.
What?
We don't have fun like that anymore.
And Georgie quickly picked me up and banged on my back, and whatever it was came up. But one of the memories was I was old enough. The only telephone in the house was on the landing of two stage stairs upstairs. And when Dottie talked on the phone, I would repeat everything she said.
Now that was a lot of fun.
I
had fun in
I was-
back in the 30s.
I was not being
It was
a very
a
good
telephone
girl.
after all.
All right.
Okay,
So, okay, that's it.
Framingham, now we're back.
All right, and then we moved to Westville for a little while. But we're getting to Sherborn. No, that's not.
Zion's Lane.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Zion's Lane is right
Zion's
off
Lane.
Route 6.
I'm just looking at the list.
Good.
Yeah.
Like I said.
I said this little house in Linden Lane is where I had to get the habit when I came downstairs like a little Minnie Mouse with a smile on my face. I evidently at some point in my life must have had a difficult disposition. And if I came down grouchy, I was told to go back upstairs until I could come down like a little Minnie Mouse.
I don't know why I didn't think of that when I was a kid.
So how old were you when you lived here?
Probably 5. I mean, it's when I was going to Miss Shedd's kindergarten in her house, and Dottie would walk me down there, and then down at the end of here. Those two houses was Miss Farley and Miss, I don't remember who the other one. They were goat people.
This town is full of lesbians.
What?
This town is full of lesbians.
Wait, how is a goat person a
No,
lesbian?
they live in two separate
Oh,
houses.
two separate
though.
houses.
But they both raise goats.
That's it.
Okay, where to now?
Now it's Maple Street for 1st and 2nd grade.
Which house on Maple Street?
The one I pointed out to that you didn't know I lived in.
Oh,
Huh?
okay.
Barbara.
Okay, so we're leaving Zion Lane. We're not going very far on Maple Street, right?
Very.
Down and through and then down.
Which one are we headed for now?
Your
Oh,
first Maple
Regina.
Street house.
No, that's over. And on the left, as we get to turn this next corner up here, is the swamp where I fell in while I was skating. house
there.
is up here on the right.
Yes.
Okay, so this house on the right.
Yeah.
You lived here when you were how old?
6, maybe. I think I was going to school because I was very good friends with the Burrows, who
Lived
lived
here though with Dottie and Georgie.
with Dottie and Georgie, yeah.
Okay.
And that's just when the arguments stopped, and she slept down in the sewing room. And after that, they never shared a sleeping space. Oh, and I teased my brother Bill. Mother and brother Bill came over. I don't know how old, but I had an electric train for Christmas.
In this house.
In this house. And so Mother brought, it wasn't Bob, maybe, but it was Bill, and Mother came over. And I was not nice. Every time he came into the room, I turned it off. I was not nice to my little brother. I don't remember being really naughty unconscious very often, but that was one of them.
I think you're going out to Western Mass at this point.
Yes, I'm going to
Oh, I was gonna say Western Avenue? No, Western
Okay.
Mass. Right.
The English Cottage.
Oh, so that's where we're going? English Cottage. Still on Maple Street.
Oh.
Sorry. Babs Funeral built a small stable-like building where Uncle Robert lived. And Uncle Robert was Papa Kitson's brother, also English, obviously, and was myself and my good friends were the only ones that he showed the sketches and the plasticine models he made of homes and other things. He was very talented also. But he would let us children come in, and it was all heated by kerosene, so everything, his clothes and everything were all kind of covered.
Wait, and that was here?
Well, it was behind Babs Earl's house, behind the
Okay.
English Cottage. They built him this little place to live. And the English Cottage is where we always had Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, there's a little shed down there still.
And Babsy loved animals of all kinds, and she had very interesting ones. And when the guests came, and she had a new donkey, and she wanted everybody to see it, but she had geese that wandered all around, so people had their good shoes on. So she wanted everyone to see her new donkey. So she opened the front door, which is a gorgeous, arched wooden door like there is out at Papa Kitson's house, and brought the donkey into the living room so they could all see the donkey and not get their shoes dirty.
That is one of the best stories. We've all heard it hundreds of times, but that's a great story. All right.
Richard, where are we going next?
I believe we're going about 2 doors up. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
2 doors up to...
Two
To
doors
the
up
little house.
116 Maple.
The little house.
Okay. This is the tiny little house that Mom lived in from ages 9 to 19. And at one point there was a green stucco house here that we all lived in that Mom's going to talk about in just a sec. Here's the tiny house.
Marie and Georgie were married, that they built the stucco house, which sat up here. And that building was moved back.
We can't talk about this one. We're not there. We got some other places to go.
Mom, can you just briefly
Sorry.
talk about the little house?
Talk about the little house?
Yeah.
It had a wood burning heating stove downstairs. It was kind of all one big room downstairs and one big room upstairs, with furniture as dividers and sliding material curtains that went across between the living room area and the kitchen area. There was no running hot water. There was no inside toilet except a chemical toilet, which was upstairs in a little closet, where Georgie would empty it every day or every few days into a big hole down back. And to take a bath. We went to Aunt Lucy's every week she lived out elsewhere in town, every week to have dinner, and I would take my bath. I was a little girl. And Georgie had this incredible,
So did you ever have warm water to wash your hands or anything? Would you heat
it
water?
didn't come out of the faucet. We didn't have a hot water heater. It was always...
So cold water came out of the faucet?
Yes, there was a well.
And you could heat it
water,
on the
yes.
stove, but yeah.
But Georgie had this wonderful solid copper called a hat tub, and you used to see them in old Western movies. I mean, it looks like a large sombrero, and it sits on the floor, and you add your own water, and there's a place you can sit on one side of it, and I don't know how often, but the curtains would be closed between the little living room area and the kitchen, and Georgie would have his bath there.
And you and everybody slept upstairs, right?
No, Dottie slept downstairs
in the little house?
In the little house by these windows, the arched.
Yeah, okay.
double.
So there was like a bed or a day bed there, or?
Yeah, I mean that's where and she was an invalid.
I see.
Part of the latter part of her life. Yes, and furniture separated Georgie's half of the upstairs from my half of the upstairs. And at night, because there was no heat source upstairs at all, which wasn't unusual a long time ago, I put a flannel blanket and hung it up over the wood stove and got it warm and took it upstairs and pushed it down between the sheets, and that's how I got to sleep. I was in the little house from 1941 through I was married in 1950. Was married from the little house.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Millis and and went in the Air Force.
So now we're going to go to the first house that Sherry and Richard and Scott lived in.
Right.
Sorry to get so long to your part of the
okay.
story.
It's all right. It takes super long to get to
A lot of
mine.
coming attractions, I gotta tell you.
This is the side we lived on.
Oh, this is the two family.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is. This
maybe
is how
not.
I met Margaret Ferber, because of an old car parked out back here.
I
for a
remember
long
sitting
time.
in that old car.
Have I told you that story?
Yeah.
They were out and they were sitting in this old car, and for quite a while, and then Margaret came and picked him up, and I realized they'd been looking at Men's Magazine. I had never met Steve's mother, and so I went up and knocked on Margaret Ferber's door. And of course, we became the very, very, very best of friends in a lot of different ways.
Thinking about this, I thought the backyard was vast.
Well, we used to
Sure,
play baseball back here.
Mr. Donnie, I've forgotten his first name, but he was just such a pleasant, very, very nice man.
Was he the owner of the house? Is that what you called
Yes,
it? That
yes.
he lived on the other side.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, he and his
And,
wife.
and his wife was our junior choir director.
So you rented this half a house from Mr. Donnie,
After we get out of the service, yes.
and you and Don and the three kids lived there.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Until we bought the house.
Which
that
house?
got repossessed.
Okay, that's where we're
Yeah,
going
we got
next.
That's where we're
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're on Hunting Lane. The Donnie's house.
The Donnie's house. And Scott and I used to walk to school from here. And by the time we were done with this first block, we had eaten the snacks and tucked the little plastic bags into the stone wall.
Now you tell me.
Exactly.
So you walked from here up to Center School?
Yep.
All right.
When did we live here? We moved there 1960, I think.
Okay.
Joanne and Roxy were with us. And that's the same period of the Federated Church split.
Wait. Joanne and Roxy were with us even when we lived here with Dad?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh,
they
okay.
lived on the left side. we
Right,
lived
I
on the
remember
right
them
side.
living there, but I didn't remember
But we
that was
separated.
even before the divorce.
We separated fairly, I mean, we didn't live there very long, and we separated during that period of
right.
time.
It's the only place I ever remember being spanked.
And
Being
I,
spanked.
Yeah.
what?
I was spanked in the living room.
Did you get
Who
spanked?
spanked you? Yes.
Who did?
You did.
Did I? Oh, dear, what
Yes.
did you do?
Over my knee, over your knee and everything, spanked.
Oh, my God.
I don't know what I did.
There's those plastic bags in the stone wall.
Well, it's also the place where Richard chased me with a hammer one day.
What?
Oh, really? I thought that was up at...
No, that's
was
here.
here?
Yeah, I was here right up the stairs and
I was a wicked child.
homework and everything, right?
Really?
And it's the place where I have very memory when we were heading over to Gump's once, and the three of us were out back, and you fell through the ice
Yes.
and
In the swamp.
in the swamp.
Where?
Back here.
Back
We
here.
did.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
that home?
Up to my waist. Which was all just...
I mean, you're right.
Actually, I have another one, which is that
Okay.
I don't know if it was the first day, it wasn't the first day of kindergarten, but it was pretty close. I got on the bus to come home, and for some reason you weren't on the bus, I don't know why, or Scott, I was there by myself, and I just figured somebody was going to tell me when to get off.
Oh.
And so I stayed on the bus for the whole route, which, was probably another 15 minutes or something like that. But as more and more kids got off, anyway, the good bus driver asked me where I lived, and I was able to tell him. So,
Was it less fun?
it might have been. I don't really remember.
That's right. I have a bus memory. I was coming down with either chicken pox or measles or whatever, but I was getting home from school sick, and I think I vomited right before I got off the bus.
Nice. Good timing. Wait a minute. No, don't.
I was here. I don't know what I was sick with, but I was sick with something.
I had chicken pox.
There was probably chicken pox
And
then.
in fact, that's...
Yeah, it wasn't measles. You would have had measles up in New Hampshire when
Okay.
I got measles.
You had measles?
Oh yeah. We had all the child. They didn't have
didn't have
vaccinations for
measles.
any of that stuff.
Oh, those vaccines didn't exist when you were? No.
No.
Wait, measles or German measles?
I had
Measles is a
measles.
really
I caught
serious
it when
disease.
I caught it when I was teaching kindergarten up in Guilford, New Hampshire, which was
And did I have measles then? I think I had measles. I seem to remember
I
having
think
had
probably-
all the childhood diseases.
yeah. That would have
Measles,
been
German measles.
What about
chicken
mumps?
pox.
I had mumps.
That's German measles, isn't it?
Oh, maybe that's it. That's
I think
what
mumps
they
and
say.
German measles are the same thing.
I had scarlet fever
Did you?
When did you have scarlet fever?
as a child.
Well, who was your mother?
Yeah, really.
I did. I had scarlet fever.
Really?
Yes. I mean, you now can take, antibiotics and the scarlet
Yeah.
fever goes away, but I had scarlet fever. But I remember feeling very, because I knew that's how Helen Keller had gotten, this was a very
Right.
romantic illness to have, even though
Yeah.
I could just take antibiotics.
You have a terrible mother.
My
I don't
throat was
remember any of my children's
bright red. Yeah, I had scarlet
Oh.
fever.
I wonder why it's called that. Yeah. So you and Dad moved in,
We moved
Oh, yeah.
in,
And then-
he was selling vacuum cleaners
right?
and so forth, and
Door to door.
yeah, and so he had to keep repossessing some, so we had a bunch of them lined up down in the basement, and so we had to keep making the payments on the ones that he had sold and got returned and anyway, and at the same time,
These were Electrolux vacuum cleaners,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
and at the same time, the Federated Church that had been in condition in this town for quite a while split, and I was very involved and emotionally in that, and so forth. So and I started to realize I had an intellect. And your father didn't know who this woman was, because I look at this. This was only 1960 and 1961 that we were here, and then we split, and that is when we moved to 3 North Main Street, and my house was repossessed. And
Which I certainly never knew
What?
as a child.
what?
I never knew that as a child.
God, no.
No, I mean, I think I knew this like 5 years ago.
Who would know what it meant? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
For me, I'm the valedictorian of this very small high school, and you know, whatever, and my house is repossessed, and we don't have any place to live.
Yeah, no.
And
You went
I'm sorry, up to 3
yeah.
North Main,
Yeah.
up to 3 North Main Street, and
And we meaning who? Who's we?
Mom and the kids.
and Joanne,
And Joanne.
and Joanne and Jimmy and Roxy moved in with us too.
Right.
And Jimmy had been up at Crotchet Mountain
Rehab.
for quite a long period of time, but he came to live with us when we moved at 3 North Main Street, and it worked beautifully because I got a job at Wellesley College, so I paid the rent and the house expenses, and she bought the groceries and did most of the cooking, and she was there when the kids got home from school, so it worked very well for both of us for a period of time. And then she met and married Hap, and I met and married your father.
My father. Right.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're heading to 3 North Main Street. Is that where we're going?
Yep.
Okay, so we're heading back through Sherborn Center. The only traffic light in Sherborn Center. In Sherborn. So this is 3 North Main on the right, and I'm going to pull across the street. So there's 3 North Main. It used to be gray.
It's been green for a long time, hasn't it, though?
Probably.
I remember. Okay. So you lived here in 1963 and 1964 with Joanne
Yes.
and Roxy.
Yes. And
Jim.
yes,
And
right.
Jim.
And
I remember watching JFK's funeral,
here.
sitting, and the TV was like
Right.
at the
right
top of the stairs, like maybe where that window seat, that
Yeah.
bay window is. And I remember you and Auntie Jo sitting there watching that, and I
So did we sleep? We slept.
that back corner, and could hear the squirrels or the rats or whatever they were. And I think you
I
and
had
Scott
the
were
front
in another
bedroom.
room.
I had the front bedroom, I think, and Joanne had the one big.
But you guys lived in the whole house.
No, just the left side.
Left side.
Oh, I see.
There was a barn in back that burned.
Right? Yes, I remember that.
Melted all the records and whoever room it was at the back on the second floor. Right? It was Joanne's. There was a stack,
Could be. I
a stack of records.
Oh,
that
really?
so
And the
hot
heat
it
was-
melted the vinyl.
I mean, I remember it coming back from Jackson's store, seeing the smoke, and then neighbors helping you carry.
Was I home? I just.
Yeah, I
mean, I know it burned, but I don't remember.
I mean,
being
I
there
assume
when it
you're home,
burned.
but I remember people helping carrying out all clothing and,
Then I must have
emptying
been
the
working.
closets and stuff like that. So,
You must have
I must have been working in Wellesley College because I don't have any recollection of the fire itself.
oh, okay.
Didn't somebody report you because his sports car was in your drive?
Homer.
Yeah, talk about that.
Oh, I was on welfare for a period of time when I moved into 3 North Main Street. I was on welfare, and I had to go down once a month and talk with the welfare agent and so forth and so on to get my check so I could feed my children and so forth. And one time I went in to get mine. 1 month I went in, and well, it's been reported that there was a green Triumph overnight several times
man.
at your home. So I have some understanding of welfare mothers, you know, and what they have to deal with.
What's amazing is that the implication is you aren't worthy of welfare, when in fact the right implication is this is excellent. You may be able to get off welfare.
Okay, so did Art move into 3 North Main? Because I don't have a...
No.
No. Okay.
He was living with Bill Wallace. Bill
Okay.
Wallace's basement. Bill Wallace was his sponsor.
Oh, right. We're going back up Maple Street, right?
Maple.
I'm going to be born soon. And in my mind,
Yes.
so we're getting to 99 Maple Street because you were hemorrhaging before I was born.
Yes, I was.
I always imagine it's on the front lawn here. You were outside on the front lawn bleeding, but it probably is just
Well,
in my...
I was outside and I just thought, oh my God, I peed my pants.
Okay.
And I didn't tell your father that it was blood because I thought he would totally.
Well, I'm sure at some point he figured that. It's a little red house. And there's my sister. Yes, hi. This is the little red house that, it's the house that I was born in. All right, I'm gonna go talk about it now.
We went to New Hampshire and got married by a justice of the peace.
Sounds like eloping to me.
But before you eloped,
Okay, so you eloped.
We eloped and came home.
So
wait.
you guys had to move out of 3 North Main because of the Pilgrim Church fiasco,
Yes,
and
and they had one service there.
and then and therefore you said, oh, I know, let's buy a house.
Art said, so we bought this house. It was for sale. Art, Bill, bought this
Yeah.
house. And Sherry got a horse, and
Yeah.
And then
and I got
And you guys-
why was my dad living in a basement?
because he, as he was
vampire.
getting sober, he didn't have any place to live.
So he had just gotten sober. I mean, when did Dad get
yes,
sober?
because Bill Wallace was his sponsor,
Well, yes.
and they had a spare room in the basement, so that's where he was
So
living
did
when
you-
I met him. I never went into the
I mean, I know
basement.
you're not a big drinker anyway, but did you not, therefore, drink because Dad was an alcoholic?
When we were together, I never took a drink.
Okay. Okay, so Dad was living in a basement in Holliston, met you at an AA meeting here
In Sherborn.
at the Pilgrim Church. Then you started dating Dad, and then you eloped, and then you bought the house. Or you bought the house and then you eloped.
I don't remember.
Okay, that's all right. Then you
We
came
were
back and
married
you were
outside.
married,
We came back and we were married. Yeah,
and you lived here.
yeah. Because people assumed we were married already when we. I mean,
So I remember this in this house. What I remember
because
is
that
that
mattered back then.
I remember Scott and Richard had a room upstairs.
There's
There's
no-
no upstairs.
Oh,
In
Well,
the L.
there was one
In the
stair.
L.
Your room was literally your room was down
That's
one
true.
stair.
That was the one in the middle.
okay.
That
So
was
everything was upstairs to me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it was a big stair. I mean,
Why do I remember you and Scott sharing a room.
we
Yes.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I don't know if there was any separation at all. And I remember like rodents, like hamsters.
There were hamsters.
There were hamsters.
Yeah.
There were hamsters.
And escaped into the wall.
And I had my own room. You guys shared a room, and Sherry, you had your own room.
Yep.
It's a tiny house.
Yeah.
Well,
For
by
everybody to have
by
a room.
today's standards.
Well, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms then.
It's got an L on
Yeah.
this end.
Okay.
That's where the bedrooms were.
Yeah. Okay. And the playhouse that Grandpa Jim made for me, right, was in that yard.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the playgroup was.
Right. Okay, so we lived here from 1960.
Till we built the house up on the deck house.
Right.
And
And we watched the moon landing. Do you
Yes.
remember that?
really?
That's right.
Okay. And,
So-
at
And there were
the-
carpenter ants
And there were carpenter
Where?
ants.
in this house.
Oh, I forgot.
They'd come out every spring.
Oh.
And you and Scott used to fight, wrestle, whatever.
Yeah.
In the mornings, I remember like watching, I don't know, whatever that cowboy
Rex trailer?
Rex trailer. Yes. And you guys I always thought you were going to kill each other.
I don't recall it quite like that. But it was on the border of friendly and not friendly.
Right. Yeah.
Sherborn police.
Tom's that
You
old
guys all
lady
set?
down in Woodhaven.
Yeah, I have my old mother she lives at Woodhaven, and we're just doing family memories of all the houses she's lived in. So, so you might see us all over town today. We're going to a lot of them pulling off.
All right,
Which
just
officer is
making sure
that?
you're not broken down.
I don't know.
No, we're fine.
Sorry,
thank
officer.
you.
What's your name? She wants.
Graziano.
What's
Graziano.
Graziano.
Oh, I'm Polly Leland Mayer.
Polly Leland Mayer.
Oh, hi, Polly.
All right.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So Christmas Eve, Auntie Jo used to come over. I think
Over
we used
here.
to come over on Christmas Eve. And I remember one Christmas Eve we were all putting together those cardboard blocks.
I remember those
You mean that
cardboard
made that
blocks.
Burke that ended
Yeah.
up looking like Burke's?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I just remember doing that Christmas Eve, so they would all be, arrive via Santa for the morning.
For me.
Yes,
That was my.
for you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, and I just remember Auntie Jo being here, and we were all. It was
I
a
remember
family
building,
project of.
I
putting
loved
together.
those blocks. I remember
Those
building
blocks.
forts with them, and
Yeah.
All right, great.
Auntie Jo
And we had a
loved you to
dog.
pieces.
Oh, and we had a dog in this house
Buttons.
that bit somebody and had to be put down.
You.
Thanks a lot, Les.
Was that the
Nice of you to bring up that traumatic memory. Is it true?
No, that was
My memories. We had Buttons prior.
Button was black,
to
mostly.
Liz being born. Buttons was really getting old, and I don't think you ever actually got bitten.
I don't think so either.
But I think you were like climbing down off the couch once and Buttons was below, and Buttons like maybe started and like nipped around, and at that point it was decided that Buttons was probably too old to be safe around
with
the
a baby.
Yeah.
With a baby.
And so I don't think you actually got bitten, but
Okay.
no,
I
she
think
did.
that
I'm
was-
sure
Did we have
I
another-
remembered if you actually got bitten.
Okay. But didn't we have other dogs that got put down too for biting?
Don't remember that we did.
Rex.
Yes, we did.
Little
We had a
dog that got
Rex.
hit by
There
the
was a
car.
Rex who
We
got
had
hit
a
by a car.
Rex?
Rex. We
No.
had a Rex.
Well, I don't remember.
I've never had a
very-
Rex. Maybe you
I
all
think for
No.
a very short period
We
of
had
time,
Rex.
we had a dog named Rex who got
Really?
hit by a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, I
have
remember the
no
tiny
recollection
dog
of that at all.
at the Donnies. What was that dog? That was a little one.
It came. I was thinking about it when I was down at Donnie's.
It got hit by a car on Main Street.
It'll flow through.
And we had the Irish setter, Sean, and
Yes.
another one.
Yeah.
We had
Too hot in
two.
here.
Yeah.
We lived here a long time.
Yeah. How long did we live here?
I say a long time. I assume it was at
A
least.
couple years, right?
Well, a lot happened because
116 Maple.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I made my junior prom dress from this house.
Do I have that?
Oh,
Probably.
you're missing some years here. So 65, 6, 7, 8, 69.
Well, you
All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going on to the deck house, right?
No, we're going
No, the
to
little house we
The
rented.
little house that we rented in the triangle between
Oh, Eddie's house.
Western.
Eddie's
Eddie was
house.
in AA.
Eddie was in AA.
That's how we knew.
That's a nice little line. Eddie was in AA.
He
It's a
was.
good rock and roll song. in there.
Eddie was in
Eddie
AA.
was in
Coming upon the little house we rented after we sold the red house.
Yep. And before.
And well, the deck house
Before the
was
deck
being
house
built.
was ready.
Finished. Okay.
I can tell you when we moved out of home, and I were on the screen porch, and it started to get nippy cold, and then we moved.
Oh.
Okay.
And that's when we moved into the deck house?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we must have moved into this house at the beginning of that summer or at some
Yeah,
point.
we
Oh, so
weren't
we didn't
there a
live there
long
very
time.
long.
No.
Oh, you know what? I remember having my birthday in this house.
Ah,
Oh.
I remember I got a purple bicycle, and I remember Miss Maddie was there. Yeah.
Onto the deck house.
Onto the deck house.
Yes, this
Here, this
Yeah,
is
what
where
did
you
you
would
do?
run
You
away.
ran away, right?
no, I didn't
No,
run
they-
away.
they just disappeared
we
from
snuck
the
out
porch.
at night to go do mischief.
But you were sleeping
In the
on the
neighborhood.
porch.
Who were you with?
And your
Yeah.
friend. Who was the friend? He lived down here someplace.
Jeff Burns.
Jeff Burns.
Jeff
yeah.
Burns.
Came over and out we went and did mischievous things.
What type of mischievous things did you do, Richard? Come on now, fess up.
Our worst was, I don't know if you remember, up on Western Avenue, there was the Walter Wood House, or Widger House, I can't remember. They had a little like a 2-hole golf course on their lawn. And we just went across there and pulled up all the flags.
Okay.
Here.
And then one night, which was funny, but probably not very safe. We collected litter cans that had been littered along Route 16 and lined them up across the road, and then waited to see what would happen when a car came by. And I mean, of course, they were very bright in the headline,
All of the things I didn't know.
And then the police came by, and we were nowhere to be found, but we saw them come by. It may have been the night I got caught. I don't know.
Farm Road, yeah. It's an old road.
Yes. For how many places and houses have changed in Sherborn? How many of them actually still look the same?
Right, that's where my, looks like it still is a bus stop. That was my bus stop. That's where the Myers lived.
Was that built when you were going to school?
That's where I waited for the bus, but that thing wasn't there.
That you came through the woods to get to the bus.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Woodwards lived there, and the Myers lived
Woodward
there.
still lived there.
Really?
Young Woodward, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you filming the driveway? We're
Yeah.
driving up it.
Yeah.
Why haven't they down here in decades?
I know.
I don't remember it had a number on it at this point, at 13 something.
Okay, so there's the house up there.
There's the house. Yeah.
Those just feed two houses.
Yeah, because my dad built a second house.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember it was bought by a guy
Who had an airplane?
who made a helicopter pad there.
Helicopter. There wasn't a garage here at that point.
Right.
The house itself hasn't changed.
Was it always that color?
No.
I didn't think that.
Swimming pool is probably still there.
I would think so.
So you lived here, Mom, until long time.
That was my bedroom right there.
And
I know. There's my bedroom right there.
Oh,
that was a nice house.
It was.
I don't remember the porch going over to the side. It probably
Oh,
did,
yeah.
It did,
but
actually,
it did.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't remember that.
I have photographs actually of one of your birthday parties, and Nana's at the end of that porch.
Uh-huh. I remember the fire here in the woods. Do
The
you
what?
remember? There was a big fire here in the woods. There was a day that we saw smoke and heard fire engines, and we decided to follow them, and they actually these woods were on
I
fire.
don't remember that.
Yeah.
But
So the house that
You
we
what?
just
He comes
saw,
from the farm.
we lived there from 19. When did we
Where,
live in the
here?
deck house? Yeah.
Like, it was either 68 or 69. No, it's probably 68.
That we moved in there.
Yeah.
And then I left for Antioch in 73, and we were still at this house, but just about to leave it.
Okay.
So I went away, and then Mom moved to 116 Maple. We've been on this road before.
yes.
Funny that.
Oh, we're heading back to.
Well, because we
Now
didn't
we're going to
really.
116, yeah.
Oh God.
Now we're going to the Stucco house, which isn't
Oh,
the Stucco
God.
one.
Or that when you and Dad split up, he first went to Grandpa Georgie's house, and we stayed in the deck house, and then you switched.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I guess you're probably right. I don't have a recollection of that, but
Okay.
I think that's the way it was.
So that must have been about the same time that Grandpa Georgie then went into a nursing home.
Right, because we didn't live there with Grandpa Georgie.
No. And he was in the nursing home quite a long time.
In Kitchitchuit.
And it was
the green stucco house.
I wasn't quite sure of the year.
I think it was either
I'm gonna
very
pull
late
around into
73
this other
or early
driveway.
74.
And Liz was with me, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I'm
I was
in-
only 9 in 74.
Hang out here in this part of the driveway.
76 I have. Oh, 116 Maple continued.
So this is basically the compound, because it has 2 houses on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was living here, and that's when Scott was diagnosed with MS.
And he moved into the garage. You guys
Yeah,
converted the
Yep.
garage into a room for him.
yeah.
Did you live in the basement, Richard, at the same time Scott lived in the garage?
That's a good question.
I don't think so.
You think so, or you don't?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I didn't.
Weren't you out in the little...
Yes, in fact, because I lived in a different corner
But I never
of the
lived there.
basement. Scott actually lived in the garage.
But if I visited,
lived
maybe.
in the corner of the
Oh,
basement.
I have no...
Yeah, there
I
was.
have no real recollection of being in the house at the same time as he is, so maybe not too.
Yeah.
But But you were going to Antioch at that point?
Well, so yeah, I mean, so I lived
So you
here.
were kind of back and forth. You weren't living at the
I
house
lived here
permanently.
for one winter or spring
Yeah.
when I had a co-op in Southborough at the premise, and then I lived here after college for 4 or 5 months.
So Scott is the one who was living with a bunch of in Wellesley before he got sick.
Yeah.
He
Right.
was living in, I've forgotten the name of the place. But
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the house that you lived in when you were dating all those people we talked about the other day. Dick Burst, Dick Avery, Emil, finally Jerry, who you decided to marry.
Yes, I did decide that.
He was the top of that list. Huh?
He was.
He was the top of that list. Huh?
He's the only one on the list that I said, why
Who had
the hell
any-
did you do that?
Who had any stability?
Well, I needed it, but that's
Yeah.
not,
You thought at the time.
it's the only, I made a lot of mistakes, but that one I had control over.
Okay, so there are good things about this house. This is the house where we got Jeff. So we got Jeff in this house, and we made a run for him in the back. My bedroom looked out on Jeff's run.
I did
don't
live here
remember
for
that.
a bit, didn't I?
Yeah, I had a birthday in this house, and I remember Mum said that there was a surprise in the guest room for me, and I went in the guest room, and you'd come home for my birthday.
I
Oh.
don't remember.
Yeah, because so after I came back from Europe, and sometime you guys must have, then you guys moved here.
Must have what?
So that would be 72, and I didn't move to Florida till 73. So yes, for that year I was living with you guys, so I did live here for a period of time. Yep, because I worked
Because Scott was at UMass at that point.
and I was working at Jordan Marsh that
And-
Christmas, and then I was working at Booksmith and CVS, so that was all from this house.
And I have you
When
going
did
to
Live here.
Florida
I
in
don't remember you
72.
living here.
When was this?
Yeah.
In 72, 73.
72, 73.
Until
You
I
were
went
at
to
Antioch.
Florida in September of 73. Until then, I lived here.
That
Richard does not believe
That
me.
doesn't sound right, because that would necessitate that I lived here before I left for college. Which maybe it's true. I don't remember.
I
remember you living here for a while.
Maybe that's when I lived.
I
in the
remember you
basement.
had the basement room here for a
Yeah.
while.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten, but it's like, yeah, because when I went to,
Because you think you went right from the
Working
deck
at-
house to college.
Yeah,
That's what
but,
you remember.
You know, maybe that's not true too.
and I don't remember moving here, but I remember coming back to the deck house from Europe because that's when I brought you your big doll, and you didn't know that's right. And then that fall, yeah, working Jordans and CVS, and then Paperback Booksmith. And
So, Scott lived here.
73 till
Scott
Moved
went
in-
to UMass in 1970.
okay.
We're back. We're on this house now.
Oh,
This
sorry.
is a house that I lived in with you and Jerry when you got married to Jerry. And Scott moved in, and Richard lived in the basement. But Scott lived here a long time with us until he went to.
Yeah, but Scott had
So-
before that.
I would have when the school bus would drop me off here. After Scott got ill, he would often be on this enormous tricycle in the driveway with a cowboy hat, and I was like, at the age that was extraordinarily embarrassing. So sometimes I'd just kind of loiter because I knew everyone in the bus knew that was my brother in my house, but all the other cars didn't necessarily know. For all they knew, I lived in that house, so I'd wait for everyone to clear the area, and then I'd go down the driveway.
Appearances were very. The other house.
Oh yeah, we're going to Mill Street now.
And then we're done, right?
And then we're done.
Then we're done.
Other than Woodhaven.
Where Mum has lived the longest of any place in her life, which is, I didn't...
You mean
Amazing.
Woodhaven.
in Woodhaven? That's right.
Mom, you never lived in that house?
No, I went there for Sunday dinners.
She's finally gone. She's lost it.